In this video, we are going to continue with parking lot design. So now we're going to talk a little bit about pedestrian circulation. You got to make sure that people don't get hit by cars. You can't assume, well, you actually assume that people aren't smart, and if you don't make it explicitly clear that they're just going to wander and get hit and then you get sued. We like to avoid that. So we want to make sure that pedestrians are separate from the traffic. And we want to provide routes for people to walk from their car to the entrance in the safest way possible. You as the engineer are responsible for designing a safe route from the car to the building. So if you have walkways, that's obviously preferred to have a sidewalk, and then you'll keep sidewalks 3 feet minimum for one way, which you rarely have a one-way sidewalk, right? And then 5 feet for two-way. I think that sidewalks in front of your house, I forget if they're 3 feet or 4 feet across, but they're definitely not 5 feet. 5 feet are definitely preferred for commercial buildings, at a minimum. Like, think about the sidewalks in front of a strip mall. They're probably, 8 to 12 feet? You also have to consider special vehicles. So your site will probably have to accommodate things such as garbage trucks and tractor trailers if you have like a retail store where they're going to be, stocking your shelves. And you have to be able to plan for that. Why? Well, larger vehicles can't make tight turns. So you have to make sure there's a route for the truck to get through your site safely without hitting any parked cars, without hitting any curbs, without hitting the building. You need to have areas where you have wide radii or like very wide turns, and that the route that the trucker will be taking won't interfere with anything that it cannot. So things like fire trucks, school buses, and then tractor trailers or dumpsters or dump trucks. So you might have a wider road or a larger turn area and parking for it. And related to parking for it is you will often, for retail stores, need to have an off-street loading area. Like, where's your truck going to load the stuff? You can't load it in front of the building. That interferes with the look of the building. People have to walk around it. It's kind of unsightly. It's not really safe. You can't assume that the parking lot will be empty when the truck comes, so you can't just say, oh, take up these 8 spaces. What happens if those 8 spaces in a row aren't, or what if they're occupied, right? Then where's it going to go then? So you have to have a designated loading area for your site. And where do you typically want that? Probably in the back of the building or on the side. Like, think of when you go to ShopRite, right? Where do you see where the trucks go when you go into the parking lot? Probably not. There's probably a route around behind the building where they can unload and load safely and out of sight. So located away from the traffic and out of sight. And then the size of it will be determined by local ordinances. What is the parking? How many berths do you need? Berths is in B-E-R-T-H, like how many loading docks do you need? And what is the dimensions required? That's all dictated by local ordinances as well. Next is waste. Where are you going to put your recycling and your garbage? Typically on the sides of the building or in the back. Oftentimes it's actually in the back, kind of by the loading areas, so you already have a special building route there. Might as well throw in a dumpster pad and have the garbage truck go back there as well. But you definitely need to screen it. You got to screen it from view. Garbage smells bad. So you want to have a nice little concrete wall to block some smell. It's also pretty unsightly. No one wants to see your crap outside, so you want to hide it from view for those reasons. So to hide it, you might either put like a fence, but typically like a solid fence, not like a chain link. You either want a wood or even a masonry is probably the best. And then a masonry wall is kind of ugly by itself, so you typically have a masonry wall and then some shrubbery to hide it as best as possible. Again, local ordinance dictates it. Next, we have drainage. When it rains, the water has to go somewhere. So you are going to be responsible for making sure that the entire parking lot has a slope to get rid of drainage. So you will, slope your parking lot, and then at all the low points, you're going to have a storm drain. and then you'll have a storm network underneath it where all the stormwater goes to be safely thrown off site. So you're going to be responsible, not in this class, but as an engineer in the real world, you would be responsible for making sure that everywhere in the site has a pitch to it, and then at every single low point, there's a sewer there to take it. Otherwise, you're going to have ponding water, and you're going to have a bad day, and then you're going to have to redesign it. Costs a lot of money. It's a hassle. So when you're designing your site, you want to reduce impervious coverage as much as possible. So you might have more landscaping throughout your site to minimize how much parking sewers you need. And it also looks better when it's green, right? And speaking of green, we're going to now go into landscaping. So what does landscaping do for a site? You might be tempted to just say, oh, it looks good. But it actually serves a more practical function. Landscaping is important because, yes, it does improve aesthetics, but it also guides traffic. So over here in this little picture over there, imagine for a second that this was not a little landscaping bed. This is where the parking is. And imagine again that this is not landscaping. It was just all the black asphalt. Could you imagine that like a lazy driver would kind of cut the corner of that little bed right there? With landscaping there, the driver has to go around in the proper route. If you cut the corner there, well, if there's a car parked right here, they might clip it. So it's safer to have the landscaping beds drive and guide the traffic flow. You're kind of being forced to go a certain route rather than just go la 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 and just free for all it. It also provides shade, which is a pretty useful in the summertime. If you have a really big parking lot like Walmart or something, it just kind of breaks it up. It also provides buffering. So if you're on certain roadways, it's nice to have a buffer between the street and the parking. If you see people parked when you're driving, it could actually kind of throw you off a little bit. So you want to kind of keep it separated so that you don't have any interference in the street to the parking lot or vice versa. How are we with time? Yeah, we should be able to finish. I think this actually might be the last one, is lighting. Your site often needs to be lit. Why? Well, it's a safety issue, right? If you don't have, if your site is well lit, you can see what's going on. You're less likely to have issues. Hoodlums don't like light, so you can kind of keep the riffraff away. So you want to light your site. It makes it look a lot more welcoming, right? Like if you ever been to a convenience store at night or when it's dark outside and it's not lit, it kind of looks creepy, right? It's not very welcoming. Lights make people feel better. You like a well-lit parking lot. It just does a better job of inviting you in, making you feel safer, more comfortable, more welcomed. However, when you do light a site, you have to make sure that you're only lighting the property, or else grandma next door is going to be real mad if your lights interfere with her sleep schedule. So you got to make sure that you light your property, but not the adjacent property. Here's a site plan that PLTW provided. If we were in person, I would actually show you several site plans that I did back when I was an engineer. So here's your streets. And there's a lot going on, right? It's kind of overwhelming and ugly to see at first. So I'll kind of break it down a little bit. Here are your streets over here. Wherever you see the light gray is actually the existing conditions. And then wherever you see the black, that's what's proposed. So we have a 3-story office building. You can enter here on Stuart Engels Boulevard. You can enter over here. 2-way traffic. Here's your ingress and egress. This is both because there's arrows going in both directions. You have parking stalls over here. Over here it's going to make a little landscaping bed. Then it kind of curves around. It's good, easy circulation flow. And what does PLTW want me to talk about? What are you pointing at? I don't know. There's your entrance right there. There's arrows. I don't know why they want me to highlight these things. That's showing you the width right here. Where's my mouse? 24 feet in width. The parking stall is 9 feet wide by 18 feet in depth, and that says TYP for typical, meaning that like all of them are going to be that unless otherwise specified. Here's your accessible parking. I don't know exactly how many parking stalls it is, but we could count it. 7 plus 10 plus, continue on. And then go to that chart to figure out how many handicap stalls you need. They have 3, so I'm assuming that 3 is what is required. Here's your sidewalks in front of the property. 5 feet in width, nice and wide. Here's their garbage. I see why they put the garbage over here, because it's kind of away from the building. However, it's kind of a far walk for the poor dude that has to walk outside to bring it over here. So I don't know if that's the best spot. I guess it is, because if you put it anywhere else, it's going to be right in front of the building. I don't know, I might have put it over here and then screened it well, but no one asked me. So here's your dumpster area. They say use the wood wall. Fine. And that's your drainage over here. So let's go back. Right here, those are all your low points. And you see the little pipes in between them. They're all connected. So here's your low points. You pop a sewer over there. And then you have a pipe network underneath it for all the drains to go. And then it goes somewhere over here off site. I don't know where it goes. And more walkways. And that's it.